All right. So, that was a bit of a humdinger, wasn't it, folks? So, it wasn't granted the most spectacular race out there, but I would say at the very least, it was a race that things happened, and I'd like to think that we all had a good time watching it. So, how's everybody doing? So, let us know where you're from and how you were able to watch the race. So, let's get some perspective here. So, very much from the get go, it was certainly something that I wasn't expecting. The fact that, Leclerc was able to go toe to toe with the Red Bulls to some extent. And that ultimately, what won it wasn't simply down to just Red Bulls being fast. It was down to simply Checo being the better driver on the day. This is clearly what he's good at. This track is what he is very, very proficient at. Oh, indeed, Supersonic. Checo showing again how good he is on a street stage. Exactly. He's very much managing the tyres. He could have easily just romped away and then fell back. And he chose not to do that. He very much decided to go for it and actually put in a very fantastic performance, and he ultimately totally deserved the victory. He ended up with a win that was convincing. 4 seconds, 4.5 seconds. I'm looking at the live timings here. I'm looking at the live timings, and I'm not putting them up because that's what I got in trouble for last time. So I'm not doing that this time around. So I can just tell you, if you are curious as to what the actual results were. Perez was the lead driver, followed by Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Sainz, Alonso, Hamilton, and Stroll. Those were the 8 points paying positions. And one thing I will definitely want to talk about, I mean, we'll obviously talk about, what happened in the retirement that caused safety car, because of course you have to have a safety car in all of this. But we did, of course, have Norris taking in his gamble and going on the soft tyre instead of just going on the medium tyre like everybody else. And I thought, well, okay, that's a fair decision to try and make something of your day because, I mean, Norris was 10th because of that technicality that he couldn't take part in SQ3 because he had no new soft tyres left to run. So, alas, he ultimately couldn't actually do what he wanted to do, and so therefore he had to start 10th. And we all thought that Tsunoda was actually kind of in hot water about that, but it seemed like he wasn't. So, Tsunoda was able to take part, did really well. And but I thought after the safety car from Tsunoda, again, we'll talk about him in a sec, that I thought that this would have been a good opportunity for Norris to get a couple of extra positions, but he didn't. I knew there was something up when the safety car came around and Norris got passed by Stroll. I was thinking, uh-oh, this ain't good. This is definitely going to lead to some kind of problem. So, yeah, that did, and Norris just kind of fell off a cliff. And ultimately ended up 51 seconds behind Checo. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. By the way, folks, if you have just joined us and you are liking what you see here, I am going to be tweaking things to make these watch-alongs or debriefs a little bit more engaging. Do leave a like. We'd like to get more people onto the channel and get it bolstered up again. So, if you can drop a like, that'd be fantastic. But yes, so Norris, that plan sadly didn't work. That was very unfortunate. So, Supersonic says, so far I'm enjoying the new format. Imagine if the results set up in the race, if that was the case before you could... Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So, at the same time, if you did really well in the sprint race and you gained a couple of positions, it doesn't make a difference to your actual race. But then, having said that, if you have an absolutely mardy of a sprint race, that's okay. You can just reset, and go again on Sunday. So you can just put the sprints thing aside. If you weren't destined to score points, then you wouldn't score points. And, just go again, ultimately. So, basically, yes. Let me know what you folks think. What did you think of this format? I thought it was kind of cool. I sadly didn't get to see the sprint shootout live because I was out walking my dog. So, I kind of caught the tail end of it on Radio 5 Live, so I didn't get the opportunity. But it seemed like fun. It seemed okay, it seemed engaging, but they really need to sort out that technicality about having a brand new set of softs, because I think that did catch out a lot of people, and including Norris. So people will learn from that. People will adapt. That's fine. But it'll also, they've got to fix that, or have it that you can maybe just, that those tires have to be less than a certain number of laps old. So like 3 laps or less. So that's like a outlap, flying lap, in lap, or something like that. Just to kind of like, meaning that you can have some sort of tires, because otherwise you just can't take part. That's the silly thing. But Fair just goes, hello mate, new here. I'm kind of new to your channel. What's your other channel? And found out you like F1, so I thought of dropping in. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much for stopping by. If you've got any questions about the sport, feel free to ask. And do drop a like if you can, because we want to appease the algorithm after we had that little copyright strikey doodle. So we have that. But that's cool. We got like 12 people in. That's nice. We're getting the numbers back up, folks. So I'm going to build up the LawVS empire. I do have a couple of videos that I want to like get going now that the weather's a little bit better. So I want to go off and do a little road trip, because McLaren's got a really nice little bit of green space by its technology center, its factory, that I want to go and take a look, take the dog. And obviously I'll go on a track day. So I want to go and do that. Actually have some proper cameras there. And yeah. Silly Morning says, I'm going to go and see COTA. Oh, good choice. So you're going to Circuit of the Americas, are you? Oh, okay. So that's a good choice. I mean, out of all of the American races, COTA seems to be the most well-received. It seems like it's the most respected. Like, I definitely feel like it's certainly the one that people like the most. I quite like it. I think it's a really good circuit. So I would say that's a good choice. That's definitely a good choice to track. I hope you have a good time. All pieces, the shootout was a little too early for the East Coast. Yeah, it was. I think I think normally that will be fixed for different tracks, but where Baku is, it's just late to like 4 a.m. on the East Coast. So this is kind of like it's something that's can be very good. Supersonic, is it me or the softs are kind of bad today? Almost like soft fell off a cliff. They're the C5s. They are the softest compound that there is. I don't know whether... No, the C0 is the hardest compound, but the C5 is the softest. And really, it's not a good race tyre at all. It's not ideal unless you just want to get a good start and then scamper off and then change very quickly. So they did fall off very, very quickly because they were the softest compound. Usually you have the C4, the C3, and the C2. So there's one step below the softest compound Pirelli has. So that will be why the softs today were just completely mullered after like 10 laps. So not even a safety car cooldown could actually save them from being completely and utter trash. Jeffrey says that dive from Lance shows how good the Aston... Yeah, no, the brakes... The Astons are very good on the brakes. It's a very, very solid car. But they just need to figure out what's going on with their rear wing. That's where they're losing a lot of time, because it's very, very draggy. And obviously get their DRS working a bit more consistently. Because I could swear that at some points, Lance's DRS was just simply not working. But then sometimes it was. So it was kind of hit or miss regarding to that. So let's see. War Saddle, I've been enjoying your racing vid, starting from the main channel, learning a little about racing. Oh, that's been refreshing. Oh, cool. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you here. So Penigus has got a small question, not directly to F1. Are you going to only focus on F1, or will you be uploading different types of motorsport? Well, I'm gonna hopefully, once I get all my game set up here, then I can actually do like some sim racing stuff, as well as like maybe taking part in some competitions. So doing some live streams of those. So if we can do that, then that'd be great. So primarily F1 in terms of like talking about it, but I do want to go to the London Prix, which is Formula E, and see what it's like at a Formula E weekend. So I want to go and do that. So I probably should get a wriggle on and actually get some tickets. So I should probably go and do that. The tyre deg was noticeable with Leclerc, and Verstappen's damage was greater. Yeah, that was very, very desperate. So they're gonna... I don't know whether they can fix the floor or not, because that's a very extensive job. So Verstappen's going into the race with potentially some damage. So I don't know whether they can fix that or not. If it's the floor, then that's a major job, and you can't do that under parc fermé conditions. At least I don't think you can. So that's something to consider. That Verstappen's got a little bit of a disadvantage. it was just a racing incident between the two of them, so it was just unfortunate. But yeah. Speaking of Formula E, thoughts on the protest in the middle of the Formula E's? Odd. Very odd choice, honestly, because Formula E is meant to be clean motorsport with practically being carbon neutral, and the cars are electric. It just seemed odd. An odd choice to stage something like that. Can't really say anything about what they were like talking about, but just the choice of event, a bit strange. SH, hey to you too. But yes, so going back to what else I thought about the actual qualifying. So the actual sprint, shame for Albon. Very tragic. He was holding his own, very much so. And I think if Stroll had that DRS issue ongoing, then he probably would have done enough Albon to actually keep ahead of him. So it was just really, really unfortunate. So that's definitely something to contend with. And Hulkenberg, on the actual thumbnail of this stream, he very much, he pretty much demonstrated what his skill set's about. He's very good at qualifying. Come race, though, he does burn up his tyres quite a lot. He's like the anti-Checo or something like that. So, yeah, so the DRS that works throughout the sprint race. Yeah, so it kind of... the Aston Martin claimed it was working throughout the entire race. So they were claiming that, but I did see that Stroll's DRS was not activating it at a couple of points. So I don't think they fully fixed that. So they're going to have to go back and tweak that some more. By the way, folks, if you just joined us, thank you very much for spending time here. I really do appreciate it. This is very much a passion project of mine. And if you could consider dropping a like and getting this out to more and more people, that would be fantastic of you and really appreciate it. So what I also appreciated was the fact that Piastri did okay. He held his own, stayed around about the same place he was, and he didn't make an embarrassment out of himself at all. He was showing very good competency. Not to mention the fact that, according to the actual broadcast, they were actually saying that Piastri's had a stomach bug throughout the entire race weekend. So he's been dealing with a little bit of a sore stomach, and he still is keeping it together. And he was doing okay. And he was hanging on to the back of Albon, and he was quite a ways ahead of Magnussen. So he was very much in his own little bubble of the actual race. So fortunately, he's okay. And hopefully he can have a little bit more of a chance to recover. Yeah. And Silly Morning, oh, you like my takes? Well, thank you, Silly Mornings. So Supersonic says, just realised that Leclerc scored more points in the sprint than in the whole... Yeah, exactly. He scored 7 points, which is more than what he scored in the last 3 races. Although technically, he only scored once. Yes. Yeah, he got like a... what was it? A 7th place? Was it a 7th place in Jeddah? I think. Because he crashed out in Melbourne. He crashed out in... well, no, he retired for a problem in Bahrain. So yeah, he only scored once. So that's very much like what Verstappen was having last time. Yeah, so... yeah, that was unfortunate for the sprint shootout. But yeah, he still has pole. He still has pole for... no, does he have pole for... yeah, he has pole for tomorrow. So he's definitely got a chance to redeem himself. But second place, I would say, after all of the strife that Ferrari have had at the beginning of this season, to get a second place and actually be tussling with the Red Bulls competitively and not just falling way behind, then that's not bad. I would say that that's perfectly good. Considering all the DRS use they had so far this weekend, Aston will take this result with both drivers getting the points. Yeah, exactly. I think that Aston, considering that they've got a very sketchy DRS, where DRS is crucial, they will just take this on the chin and think, you know what, considering where we were last year, this is fine. Like, I think they will succumb to... I think they will fall back behind Mercedes in the championship in second place, but I think third place is very much realistic for Aston right now. But it's certainly something very interesting. So just goes, what are your thoughts on Honda coming back to F1 in 2025? Well, technically they're still around. They've not left. They were considering leaving in 2021. Then they offered like some technical help to Red Bull powertrains, and now they're realizing, ooh, we kind of left too soon. So they're now actually deciding to actually jump back in more and more so. So they had scaled down, so they're now scaling back up again. So technically they've been still around. So the Honda name is still an F1 with AlphaTauri and Red Bull. So now they're probably just going back and upping their actual capacity again. But who would they be with? That's a good thing. Yeah, exactly, Supersonic. They are still around, but I think what Pi just means is coming back in terms of, a full presence, like a full works capacity. I think probably they will end up with probably another team. Aston's been considered to have, if Aston got a works deal with Honda, that would be quite a shot in the arm, because Honda does now have good experience making F1 engines for about a decade now. So having Aston a works deal as part of Lawrence Stroll's major campaign to be at the top, not a bad shout. I mean, considering that in the last 2 years, Honda has been powering the Constructors' Champions. Well, no, not the Constructors' Champions, but the Drivers' Champion has very much been powered by Honda. So to have Alonso with a Honda... Oh, actually, if you think about it, ironic reunion between Honda and Alonso. But it depends on whether Alonso is still driving in 2025. So that's definitely that. Let's see. I think this year will be a transitory period for Aston Martin once they start using that new Silverstone facility. Yeah, no, exactly, Patrick. Exactly. This is very much a year. I don't think they were expecting to be this good already. So I don't think they were expecting to be this competitive already. I think they said they're already well ahead of schedule, like at least a year ahead of schedule. So where they were thinking they'd be in 2024 is happening right now. So it's actually kind of fascinating to see this happening in real time. I'm not really a fan of the Aston Martin team per se, because they do feel a little bit stilted. But I have to admit, though, their social media presence is really on point. They are actually starting to lighten up a bit. But I don't know, it's just something about it just seemed a bit, like, sterile or something. But I gotta admit, they bring in the results, so that's what counts. That's definitely what counts. So I will give credit where credit's due, and I'm happy for them. The Silverstone team, who's been around for a very, very long time, ends up actually coming good. Actually ending up bringing in the bacon. So all credit goes to Aston Martin. They did a very good job. Very, very good job indeed. So basically, that's something to take into consideration. Also, I really want to see BMW return as an engine supply, maybe from McLaren. I don't think that BMW would consider it, because I think that ship sailed for them. Because I think they're only really focusing. Are they focusing on DTM? I don't think that BMW's really got much of a motorsport presence at the moment. I mean, they got their M division, just like that. Norris starting on the softs. I was a little bit dubious at first, but then I thought, oh, this could be a 189 IQ play. But then I realized, oh, it's the C5. And not even a 3-lap, not even a virtual safety car and 2 laps behind the safety car could actually save the soft tires. So ultimately, it was a little bit like, oh dear. Oh dearie me. It was just not the right thing to do. Oh dearie me. That was not the best thing to do. So Norris just fell down like a stone. I didn't realize the cliff was that bad. That was just awful. That was just dreadful. So, let's see. They mentioned in the commentary that the other drivers are taking more risk on the Red Bulls since they're fully aware of the dominant rate pace they have. Oh yeah, exactly. Basically, if other teams have an opportunity to actually try and pull a fast one on Red Bull, then they'll take it. They'll definitely take it and go, we've got to capitalize on this, because otherwise it's just, they're just going to romp. They're just going to romp away with it all. And then there would really be no kind of competition at all. So it definitely is like something that they need to pay mind to, is that if there is a chance to jump Red Bull, you take it. Killmads, you saw this notifications. Don't worry. I will be having this available as a DVR. So this will be available to watch later. So you will definitely have another chance to watch this debrief. So it'll be in your feed. So just keep an eye on it, turn on notifications, and it'll become available to you so you can catch up. Okay, BMW. Oh, and the LMDH. Oh, okay, so they are doing like Le Mans stuff. Okay, so they are doing something, but I don't think that F1 is really in their remit right now, because at the moment it seems to be just Audi at the moment. Honda have recommitted, and Audi are coming in. Porsche were considering it, but they're not anymore. So I don't think that there is another group interested, at least not yet. So I think we're only getting like 2 new constructors. Oh, well, Ford technically with Red Bull, yes. So Ford's kind of like getting into bed with Red Bull. So I wouldn't say that it's a proper full Ford collaboration. This isn't like the Cosworth days. This is going to be more like a naming deal, because from what I saw at the Red Bull event, it just seemed very, I don't know, it just seemed a bit surface level. Like, this is more kind of like, you know, we just want to be attached to this very successful team and, you know, kind of work with what we have. So it definitely seems a little bit suspicious. Doesn't really seem as genuine as I thought. I mean, Supersonic, plus with how hard it is to join F1, I mean, look at Andrew. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the fact is that it had this happen back in 2010 when we had those 3 new teams. If an outfit decided that they want to have an F1 team, Bernie Eccleston and Formula One would have bitten their hand off and just go like, yeah, please, we need more teams. So that was back then. Now though, Formula One, you don't really hear about the teams running out of money. Yes, Haas talk about having a low budget and having tough times all the time, but they're just a bit stingy. And they are resourceful though. Instead of making a brand new lower drag rear wing, they just chopped a little bit off of their regular rear wing. So, you know, points for ingenuity there. Didn't necessarily make it very good, but it was something. So they actually thought about stuff. But I don't know. It just seems very, it just seems a bit iffy. So, and not to mention everyone, they're all good brands. They're all very well-known brands, these teams. So they are not short on money. So they want to make sure that they keep it that way and don't lose money in the long or the short of it. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot more competition. But you're going to have to pay, I think in a few years' time, you're going to have to pay like $500 million just to join. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. I think that's just way too much. F1 Dream Team. Any 2 drivers, any 1 team in history. Who have you got? 80s era Brabham, I would say. Because that 80s era Brabham, like early 80s, like, yeah, we're talking about like between like 1980 and 1984. Something like that. I would have Riccardo Patrese as my wingman, as like my second driver. And John Watson and Riccardo Patrese, I would say. I want them as my 2 drivers because Patrese is a very consistent driver, dependable, quite reliable. And then John Watson, he's the guy who patented what Checo does right now, what he did in Sakira in 2020, the burn from the stern. As in, yeah, you may not be a hotshot when it comes to qualifying, but ultimately in the race, you just power your way through, and that can get you to some good points, if not some wins. Because John Watson in the McLaren, very good indeed. So those would be my picks. Patrick says he'd go with Kimi Raikkonen and Niki Lauda with 2000 era Renault. Would you go with the 2005 or 2006 Renault? So you probably want to go the R25. That seemed a little bit more on it, especially in comparison with the F2005, like the Ferrari 2005 car. That was just not good. Can't believe how massive fall from grace from 2004 to 2005. That was just a ridiculous drop in performance. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, so let's just get on to talking a little bit more about the events of what we saw. So Yuki Tsunoda, once again, really putting into question the competency of the AlphaTauri pit crew, because they just put him out when quite clearly the wheel rim was completely eviscerated. Like, it had nothing. It was it was not going to stay on that wheel, that tire, because it was just completely jank. It was covered in like, it was broken in many, many places. It just seemed very strange. Same thing happened in F2 with Yuki. Oh, did it? Oh, did it? Oh, damn. That's like that's ridiculous. The fact that it's happened. And this isn't the first time that AlphaTauri have put one of their drivers back out, and it's quite obvious that they really shouldn't have done so. So it seems just like whoever's in charge of being their chief engineer and making the call to go back out, it just seems like it's a very odd choice. It just seemed very questionable. But good on for Yuki to be able to actually drive that car back. Yeah, instead of just like kind of giving up or pulling off. So determination for Yuki is very, very paramount. He's determined. I don't know whether you can class that as stubbornness, but in any case, it seemed like he did well enough. So something quite intriguing indeed. So we got the race to look forward to. That's going to be something fun. So going over my predictions from my predictions video on Thursday, I think I had Checo first, Verstappen second, Alonso third, Gasly fourth. Yeah, that ain't happening. Well, having said that, Gasly did get himself back up to like 13th or something, and Leclerc 5th. I mean, in terms of my pointsage, I probably wouldn't like change or anything. Like, I wouldn't like change I can't change it, but I would say I'm pleased with the fact that I had Checo going ahead of Max, because I feel like if Max gets bogged down behind Leclerc, I don't think that Max has like the car to do it now, especially since it might be damaged, and I don't think they could repair it. So I think Checo is in line for a shout for the win, and I'll be very pleased if he does, because that'll be like a very accurate prediction of mine. Alonso, though, not sure about that. I'm not sure about whether he'll actually do the goods or not because of that DRS, but I don't see a podium now, but Gasly may be creeping back into the points. And Leclerc. I mean, Leclerc, now he could be on the podium. If I could change it now, I would have I'd still have Checo for the win, and I would have Max and Charles going for second place, and it being quite close. And yeah, I definitely feel like that could be good. Are they not allowed to fix the bodywork because of Parc Fermé? I think they can. Some things, like the Aston Martins, they could have under Parc Fermé regulations their DRS fixed, so they could do that. But this seems like to me a floor issue, like bits of the floor, which is like the ground effect thing that underneath. I think that's damaged. So I think that's a very comprehensive job. You'd have to take the floor off and replace the floor. So that's a major job. I don't think you can do that. Or if you did, you'd have to start from the pit lane. Okay, so Jeffrey says that it could be possible if it's the same. If it's like for like. So, yeah. So, I imagine certainly for bits of bodywork that are easily repairable. Then if it's like for like and it's no different, or worse, then you can. So you can't just use this as a cheeky excuse to have an upgrade or something. So Max and George, I mean, good on George getting fourth in the sprint shootout, and yeah, he was on course for a podium, so he was definitely competitive. So it just goes to show that George doesn't suck around. He was just very unlucky. He was just very unlucky not being in that not being in the ideal position. So that's just something to take into consideration. That George is very good. It's just he just got a very bad deal, and Lewis knocked him out realistically, not physically, but out of Q3. So that is something. Carlos Sainz was there, didn't really kind of show himself off or showcase himself very well. So there's that. I'd probably say that the most anonymous, I mean, Debrief had a decent go. He was getting some overtakes. So I would say that Debrief performed decently. He definitely performed more competently than he has done in any other race. So there you go. So with Tsunoda not around, he certainly was able to bring some kind of satisfaction to AlphaTauri. Bottas, though, man. I mean, yeah, he was on the soft tyres as well as Norris, but he was just nowhere. Like, at some times, I just forgot that Bottas was even there. Like, what? I just feel like Zhou Guanyu is doing more. I think he's doing more for Alpha than Bottas is. Bottas is just kind of fallen off the wagon. I don't know what's going on. It's just he doesn't seem to have an answer to responses in the race. Like, something happens, Bottas just doesn't respond. So I'm actually starting to see what he was doing kind of at Mercedes. So, you know, like, maybe sometimes if he was, like, in a precarious situation during the race or something, and then something would happen, or if he got if something happened and he fell back down the grid, like being like 9th or 10th or something, and the Mercedes, which you think would just storm all the way through, he got stuck. He would get stuck in that position, and he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So I'm starting to see that at Alpha, and the Alpha's not a Mercedes. It's not the W11 or the W12. So you think, oh no, has Bottas run his course or something? I hope not. I really hope not, because he is a good driver, but it just seems like something off. Because the first half of 2022, Bottas was a changed man. He seemed very content with his lot. But now it's just like, Oh, Raihan, you're talking about Bottas in the rain. Oh, Hungaroring 2021. Oh dear. I really wouldn't be surprised if that was the time when Toto basically just said, okay, that's it. No, he's out of here. He's out of here. Cue the Rosberg meme. Cue the Rosberg meme from that, PTSD from that particular event. Oh dear. Yeah, that was something else, wasn't it? But yeah, Bottas to me just seems like he's really not had any kind of motivation. Okay, to be fair, that car, that Alpha is just not there. It doesn't really seem inspired, or it doesn't really seem to be that competitive. So that's not helping either. But then you see Zhou Guanyu just like bringing it up to like 12th and being fairly decent and being in the mix. Then you have to look at Bottas and you think, well, what's going on here, mate? I know you're on the soft tyre, but even then it was just a case of, why did you persist? You should have just maybe done sooner. But hey, I'm not a Formula 1 driver, so I really can't speak for them. They would probably know what to do. Jeffrey says, Alex is dragging that Williams somehow to the points or Q3. Yeah, absolutely. Albon is very much motivated. He's very fired up. He's very, very happy. He has a team which he can now build around. It's his team now. Because I think that Albon, he's going to be there now for as long as he wants. I feel like Williams, there's no reason to get rid of him. There's no reason to just chuck Albon out. You could just have him there for the rest of his career, if he wants it. I mean, he's not going to go back to Red Bull now because he's been burnt from that, and Helmut Marko wouldn't have him. I think he's going to build himself a little niche at Williams and have a very nice time of it. He's going to feel very content. He's going to have some very solid teammates, and I mean, if Logan can just pull his socks up, then I could easily see that pair being there for quite a while. I mean, it was unfortunate that Logan kind of binned it in the shootout, but it made logical sense to not include him in the sprint, because it then makes sure that that car is good to go for the race. Because if you just made a rush job for the sprint, and you're not likely to score points anyway, then why would you want to rush it when it could break more? And then you might even have more repairs to do. So, something to take into consideration, but I think they made the right call not having Logan in there. So, I definitely think that was something to, some food for thought. Certainly food for thought. Okay. So, right. I probably will say that will be that for this little bit of a, tete regarding the debrief. I will hopefully be back tomorrow for a post-race debrief, so I'll be there and I'll look at the schedule and I'll get that all scheduled up for you so everyone's ready to go for that. But thank you very much for joining me, and it's very nice to see you all here. And if you missed it or like to catch up, this stream will be available when possible. So take care, folks. I shall see you again very soon. Ta-ra!